Hello and welcome to Cardano360, your monthly catch-up with some of the people and projects building out the Cardano ecosystem. Now, before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe and hit that bell icon for all the latest Cardano content and news from the team here at IOG. Now, on the heels of the ScotFest and Cardano Summit events, the IOG team took a bit of time out to enjoy the holiday season. It's a shorter than usual show today, but we're back, refreshed and ready to help make 2023 an even more exciting year for the wider Cardano community. Now, I'm sure none of you have missed the conversations about JED, a new over-collateralized stablecoin for Cardano being brought to the market by Coty. We'll be featuring Coty on the show very soon, but JED's not the only game in town. Late last year, EMURGO, one of the three original founding entities of Cardano, announced they'd be launching their USDA stablecoin in 2023. Join us on the show today is EMURGO's Managing Director of FinTech, Vineeth Bhuvanagiri, to tell us more. Vineeth, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, super happy to be on with you guys and very excited to chat.
You talked at the Cardano Summit about building bridges between the traditional finance world and DeFi. Tell us a bit more about EMURGO's vision in that area.
The way in which we currently see the ecosystem is there's kind of two worlds that are still relatively separated. You've got the TradFi world with its regulations, its banking, infrastructure, and everything else that doesn't have that Web 3.0 facelift in regards to the efficiencies that you can see within the blockchain space. Then you kind of have this burgeoning economy within the DeFi ecosystem, but kind of having people go in between the two have been relatively difficult for the past, I would say, almost decade or so. So one of our big things right now is how do you make it as easy as possible for people that are within the DeFi ecosystem to go into the real world and back out without any friction that currently exists. So our vision kind of in the future is everyone that has a wallet within the Cardano ecosystem can quickly and easily get a regulated bank account set up, move things from their anonymous wallet into the real fi world, be able to convert their cryptocurrencies into cash, be able to pay for real world goods and assets. And at the end of the day, they can choose to either keep that in the real fi world or port it back over to the DeFi ecosystem to make that process as seamless as possible for everyone.
So this is very much about real world adoption.
Oh, 100%. I think that's the one still lacking element within the entire crypto ecosystem is there's a lot of infrastructure that's been built around crypto. There's been a lot of tooling and stuff, but still like a real world application for what people use crypto for, besides the fact that it's just a cryptocurrency. I still needs to exist within the space in order for it to thrive. And this is where we think that, cross-border payments, remittances, et cetera, are a really good application, more specifically suited for the Cardano blockchain.
So last year you announced that you'd be bringing USDA, a new stablecoin, to Cardano, and also the Anzens Suite. Can you tell us some more about that and also what stablecoins will bring to Cardano?
Yeah, I would say the biggest reason for why Cardano needs a stablecoin at this point in time is it has the rest of the infrastructure and tooling in place, such as DEXs and everything else. But the stablecoins, at least in the other ecosystems, kind of acted as that catalyst for driving DeFi growth. And we believe that having that within the Cardano ecosystem will help kind of bring up the DeFi community and the DeFi, I would say, role within the Cardano space, as well as allow for us, again, to build those real world applications. And Anzens is our product suite that's more focused towards that regulatorily compliant bridge between the real world and the DeFi world. And we want to make it as seamless and as easy as possible, but we also want to make sure that it still keeps within the regulatory environment that governments are now pushing for given recent market events.
Now, of course, many people are familiar with USDT and USDC. How will USDA be different?
There's a couple of different differences, but the main one is right now there still isn't a fully backed, regulatorily compliant stablecoin within the Cardano ecosystem. And a lot of it has to do kind of with the structure of the Cardano blockchain. But we believe that by introducing USDA, we can fill a need within the current community that we're kind of best placed to solve, which is the Cardano community. And then kind of the other differences between us and USDT is we are planning on having monthly attestations by an auditing firm in order to ensure that all of our funds are 100% backed, which is something that cannot be said for USDT. And we're more similar along the USDC routes where all of our cash that's being held within custody of EMURGO for the stablecoin will be audited, will be 100% backed, and there will be no mismatch between the number of assets that are being issued versus the cash that's being held within our accounts.
So security is obviously very important in this area. Tell us more about how EMURGO's approached this.
So the primary thing that we're looking for, I would say that there's two forms of security. One, which is on the actual technical integration and implementation side. And the second form of security is in regards to the actual accounting and bookkeeping. So on the technical security side, we're looking to get our SOC 2 compliance audit underway in order for us to kind of demonstrate that our security posture is in line with other leading financial institutions that are within the United States. Because if you're dealing with real people's money, you can't have a technical flaw lead to the loss of funds. So that's one area which we're substantially focusing on in regards to how exactly do we maintain our minting and burning private keys, how exactly do we protect customer information, and how do we integrate with our regulated banking partners over here within the States. The other side of things is on the compliance and audit side. And so the way in which we've designed our smart contracts for the minting and burning flows is if there's any kind of mismatch between the funds that are being held that represents the stable coins and the actual stable coins issued, we have safety processes in place in order to be able to freeze the minting and burning capabilities of our platform. And then beyond that, more so along the compliance side, again, we're going to be providing monthly attestations in regards to the amount of funds that are being held within our account. And then beyond that as well, what we're hoping to do, this may not come out immediately, but within a couple of months, basically just a direct sight into what our exact holdings are at any given point in time. So anyone can log onto our website, directly get access to the API for our banking partner, and see what's being held within our funds on top of those monthly attestations. So that's kind of how we're planning on going down the security route from both a technical perspective as well as from an audit perspective.
So has EMURGO made any particular technical decisions here, for example, around the UTXO model?
The Cardano UTXO model is quite different than the accounts-based model that you see on a lot of the EVM-compliant blockchains. And for us, this actually provided us with some drawbacks as well as, in addition, some benefits. The main benefits that we kind of got out of this was the metadata that we could actually include with the Cardano native assets, which we think is incredibly useful for the tokenization of real-world assets. For dollars, it's a little bit more simple, where it's basically what are the accounts that are backing your dollars that we could kind of embed within the USDA tokens. But if we move on to additional real-world assets, such as precious metals or other commodities, having that information on-chain within the metadata is actually incredibly beneficial. And this also, from a fee standpoint, makes it easier for us to interact with the Cardano blockchain and have it be a native asset. So as opposed to spending a bunch of gas interacting with a smart contract in order to update the accounts and balances, a UTXO model is a lot more lightweight, which gave us, again, additional benefits for the goal that we had at hand, which was the tokenization of real-world assets and have them be freely movable on a blockchain.
And what were the challenges you needed to address?
The biggest challenges that we needed to address, and this is actually something where kind of regulations coming in, where a lot of the EVM-based smart contracts, they have an ability to freeze assets for accounts that they do not want to go with. But I think it's actually beneficial from a crypto standpoint, where once you own the private keys to your assets, you own your assets, as opposed to having somebody else with a big red button with the ability to stop it. But this also leads to additional compliance hurdles that we are then going to have to face is how do you maintain a blacklist of censored customers, so on and so forth. So there's challenges that came up with the versatility, but these are not challenges that we don't think are unable to be overcome.
So talking of regulation, what's your view on the current environment and how you feel that's going to shape 2023?
Yeah, so regulation's a really big topic right now, given the fallout of FTX and everything that's taken place in 2022. And it's definitely coming down the pipe from governments all around the world. For us, our take on regulation is necessary for certain elements within crypto in order to protect the end consumer. So at the end of the day, if a blockchain can be regulated or can be censored, I don't believe that that's a real blockchain, because that's the entire purpose of what a blockchain was kind of created for. So for us, regulation should exist, but it should exist when bridging real world assets to digitized assets. So if I'm holding a token that represents an asset, let's say, again, for example, with USDA, I want to make 100% sure that there's a regulatory framework in place to make sure that the tokens that I'm holding in my account still represent a perfected interest in that underlying asset. And as regulation starts to come through, my hope for the industry is that policymakers and lawmakers work with the innovators within the crypto space in order to best define the ideal way to protect the end consumer while still allowing for innovation to take place. Because if regulation ends up overstepping its bounds due to the uncensorable and unstoppable nature of crypto, it ends up making the risk more borne by the end participant, which I think could be detrimental. So I think a nice balance needs to be struck. This is basically the only way in which I can see that balance being struck is for policymakers to work with the innovators within the space.
So Vineeth, once it's launched, how will people be able to get hold of USDA?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways for people to get access to USDA. If they're a US citizen, they can get on-ramped through debit, credit card, ACH, or wire transfer. So Tim, for example, if you were a US participant, you could just connect your bank account directly to Anzens, move some funds over, and then tokenize those as USDA. In order for us to expand beyond the United States, we're going to kind of have to go on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis to make sure that we're compliant with all of the regulations regarding stablecoin that are now coming through the pipeline. So for people that are outside of the States on launch day, they can get access to USDA through the various DEXs. We're planning on providing liquidity across the major DEXs in the Cardano ecosystem to allow for people to convert their ADA to USDA relatively in a straightforward manner. And we're also in discussions with various centralized exchanges as well in order to list USDA. So there's a couple of different methodologies for people at the very beginning to get access.
Well, good luck with the launch, and we'll get you on soon after that. If people want to find out more in the interim, what should they do?
The best spot would be to go to our website and sign up for the waiting list. It's at www.anzens.com. That'd probably be the best area for people to get additional information.
Vineeth, thanks very much for joining us. Now, decentralization is one of the foundational pillars of blockchain, but it can mean different things to different people and different networks. And the industry is lacking common understanding, common terms, and common metrics. That's why the Blockchain Technology Laboratory at the University of Edinburgh is collaborating with input-output researchers to build the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, or EDI for short. This powerful open-source tool will not only define and measure decentralization, but it will allow anyone to easily assess the decentralization properties of leading blockchain networks. The team sat down in Edinburgh late last year with Professor Aggelos Kiayias, Dr. Daniel Woods, and Christina Ovezik for a special segment on the role of the EDI in creating and driving standards for the whole industry.
What's so great about it? When people usually talk about decentralization, they kind of look at one very specific angle of the system. So for example, they can look at how distributed are the nodes, or whether they are dispersed in different geographic location. But it's very important to zoom out, get like a wider, if you want, like a bird's eye view perspective about what a system is at all its different layers and all its different facets.
Decentralization within blockchain systems is a way of measuring who has different forms of power. And for consumers, for regulators, for other businesses, that's not easy to check. It's not easy to verify how that power is distributed.
We believe in transparency. We want people to have all the information they need and not have to go through companies' websites that probably obscure the information. We, as researchers, will do our best to get data from the blockchains and parse them, make them simpler for everyone to understand. The Edinburgh Decentralization Index will be basically a score.
A stratified set of metrics that measure how power is distributed across many different layers of a blockchain system, from who owns the tokens through to who owns the consensus, and mechanisms through to who develops the software that it's based on.
It's a principled way to look at this concept of decentralization in a way that is verifiable, in a way that someone can see the methodology that was followed and could see the data that were used and can also verify the computation with which we arrived at the particular assessment of decentralization at any given time.
The goal of the Edinburgh Decentralization Index is to empower users to make informed decisions. They can see whether it's decentralized or not, or rather how decentralized it is, and base their decisions on that.
When you look at proprietary solutions in other spaces, they're often untransparent and potentially they could be serving the interests of the person who produced them. And I think this creates kind of broken incentives. Rather than on self-reported data, we're going into the systems and trying to measure with primary data based on the systems themselves.
The Edinburgh Decentralization Index will inform users about how secure blockchain systems are, because decentralization relates to security in many ways. It will tell users how far a certain blockchain is or close to a single point of failure. It will say how susceptible it is to certain attacks. For example, the higher the decentralization of a blockchain system is, the less vulnerable it is to certain attacks.
We want to put this to work. So we want to develop a system that measures in a live manner the centralization of different systems and presents it to the end user.
For now, they only have the promises of different blockchains and cryptocurrencies, but there is no data to back it.
The type of research that Input-Output does is research that is based on first principles. The type of research work that you will see coming out from researchers that work at Input-Output is research that looks at problems from a very neutral academic perspective, tries to solve them in the best possible way, independently of minor elements that you might think like, oh, this is important at that particular point in time, or we try to optimize this particular element. The real issue here is solve the really hard problems of the space following a first principles approach. And Input-Output has, for many years, pioneered this perspective in the blockchain space as a company.
It's very interesting to work with researchers at the Blockchain Lab. The way they work and the way they can see into the future and make a plan, it's very inspiring for me. It's quite fun. Researching this area is quite fun.
And if you want to hear more from Professor Kiayias, be sure to check out the long-form interview with Charles Hoskinson, recorded in Edinburgh, looking back at some of the achievements and an in-depth discussion of IOG's research agenda and approach. Here's a short clip.
What would you say has been accomplished over the last 6 years? What are some of the things you're most proud of?
I was already obviously working from before on blockchain technology, but the Blockchain Lab gave like a bigger mandate. Together with all the plans that they were being laid out at Input-Output regarding the development of Cardano. So it was like a lot of exciting things that we started working on now, but I think like the one that was the biggest and the one that had the biggest impact was developing Ouroboros and studying proof of stake from a first principles perspective. I think that was really great. A great way to demonstrate that proof of stake is possible in the same model that Bitcoin operates.
So let's move to that. You know, I coined the term third generation as sustainability, scalability, and interoperability as kind of a natural extension of smart contracts as the second generation. So what do you imagine the fourth generation of cryptocurrencies looks like? What's on the horizon? Where do we go from here? 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, so, looking ahead on this, I think like one sort of major deficiency in a lot of the existing systems right now is that there is no sort of privacy-preserving mechanisms that make it possible for users to interact with a public system that gives you auditability, but at the same time it enables you to sort of declare certain things as not public for everyone. I think like the sort of like difficult dance here that one has to play is that you want to achieve two, if you want, fundamentally conflicting properties. Like on the one side, you want to withhold some information, but on the other side, you want to make sure that this information is properly structured, verified, audited, so that it's still admissible, let's say, as part of a public ledger that can be like a basis for a, if you want, like a contract or a mediate, it can be an actual mediator, let's say, of what people want to do. I think this is like a really big omission.
As we saw with the first ever Essential Cardano guide to the ecosystem, there are countless projects building on Cardano, all with the shared purpose of driving adoption and utility. For our first Building on Cardano segment of the year, Anita caught up with Marvin Bertin, CSO and co-founder of Genius Yield, to talk about what the team's been up to since they last joined us and to learn more about their plans for 2023. And Matthew Capps sat down with Wilson Davis of Paribus to learn about their interoperability solution.
Hello everyone, today on the show we have with us Marvin Bertin. Actually, Genius Yield was on Cardano360 before, so really happy to have you back on. So Marvin, can you please tell a little bit more about Genius Yield for the community members that are not familiar with it?
Yes, absolutely. So Genius Yield is an all-in-one DeFi platform. Our DeFi platform has two main pillars, our DEX and our Yield Optimizer. Our DEX is a next generation DEX that combines concentrated liquidity, smart swap, and yield optimization.
Thanks a lot. So since the last time, your team has been really busy. So can you tell us a little bit more about Genius X Launchpad?
In December of last year, we released Genius X Launchpad. So this is a token sale launchpad. In fact, we would say it's the most advanced launchpad on Cardano at the moment. It is fully smart contract based. That means the token sales are completely non-custodial. So we execute full KYC and AML verification on all our buyers.
There was also a token sale, and anything you like to add to that?
Yes, so right after the launch of the Launchpad, we completed the Genius Yield token sale to the public. So that was a successful sale of the GENS token. And over the next couple of months and year, we'll be onboarding other projects onto our platform and allow them to sell their own token to the community by leveraging our Launchpad.
Thanks, that is a lot of news. And if that's not enough, you're also having a staking app. So can you tell us how community can interact with it?
Right after our GENS token sale, we also released the Genius Yield staking app. And so this application allows our GENS holder to stake their GENS and earn yield, but as well also stake NFTs to boost their yield and lock them over a fixed period of time. And similar to the Launchpad, how we can onboard other projects to the platform, the staking app will also be available for other projects. And so over the next couple of months, we'll allow other teams to stake their token and give access to their community to staking yields.
I'm really excited to follow up the progress on this, and thank you for sharing. I wanted also to ask about open source Haskell Plutus backend framework. Can you share us a little bit more about this and how community can get involved?
So our developer team has put a lot of effort into building our own in-house Haskell Plutus backend. This framework is what powers all our applications here at Genius Yield. So from the Launchpad to the staking app to the upcoming DEX, this framework is what allows you to interact with the smart contracts, build transactions, do coin selection and transaction balancing, as well as supporting V2 Vassal features. And so this is a key component that allows people to build application on Cardano. And so we're very proud to announce that we will be open sourcing this framework to the community so that it can benefit other projects building on Cardano.
Thank you. And finally, looking ahead into this year, can you share with us what Genius Yield has in store?
So for 2023, this is when Genius Yield will unveil the full vision of our DeFi platform, and starting with our DEX. So like I mentioned earlier, we're building a concentrated liquidity DEX with smart swap functionality. We'll first launch our public testnet, and then shortly after that, we'll launch our mainnet. And over time, we'll introduce more and more advanced smart swap features. And then later in the year, we will introduce our smart liquidity vault, which is our solution for yield optimization by leveraging the unique functionality of our DEX.
Thank you and good luck with your launch and development. I also wanted to say that it's been great having you as a guest. And do you have anything else you would like to share with Cardano community?
Overall, I think Genius Yield is so much more than just a DEX. We see ourselves as building a complete DeFi platform for Cardano, from fundraising to staking to trading to yield optimizing. We want to become the one-stop shop for DeFi on Cardano. And so if you want to learn more about what we do, you can follow us at geniusyield.co and also geniusx.co to check out our latest updates.
Thanks a lot, Marvin. It's been really a pleasure and great to hear about what you're building on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So today we have with us Wilson. Wilson is at Paribus, a lending and borrowing platform being built for Cardano. Wilson, can you tell us, for anybody who hasn't seen your last appearance with us on Cardano360, why are you building for Cardano?
Paribus is a cross-chain decentralized borrowing and lending protocol, and we're focused on using exotic assets for collateral, things like NFTs, LP positions, and synthetics, as well as traditional assets. And some of the things that set us apart is really our NFT valuation models, and that will allow us to do instant non-peer-to-peer loans for NFTs, and that's definitely something that's going to allow us to scale much better. In regards to the reason why we are wanting to connect and help support the Cardano ecosystem is really because the main focus of interoperability that Cardano has really allowed us to be very aligned with the vision that Cardano has long term. And we love the methodical and research-based approach that Cardano takes. And the community is really awesome. We love the energy that they have, and the conversations that they bring are really valuable.
So there's been a lot going on in the industry in the last few months, and topics like security and self-custody have been rising in importance for crypto users. So how has Paribus tackled these issues?
Self-custody has really been a huge aspect in the space now. Security, the true meaning of DeFi, these are all very important key discussion points that have been brought up very recently and have been shown to light due to things like the FTX collapse. Really everyone inside and outside of crypto has learned a lot, and there's a lot of things that people who are still active and working in crypto, they want to be able to utilize their assets and bring more utility to them, and so they're still looking for ways to do that, but in a safe, decentralized, and non-custodial manner. And that's really exactly what we're doing at Paribus. We have built a protocol that is sticking true to the meaning of DeFi, very decentralized, and our protocol never holds custody of our users' funds. Additionally, we're rigorously audited, so that helps us ensure the safety of our protocol.
So now I'd like to turn to Paribus' latest development, and in particular, I think that the audience will be interested to hear about Paribus' growing presence with Cardano. So what has Paribus been up to lately?
We've been very busy, actually. We've been working on the first mainnet version of the Paribus platform. And this really sets the foundation for all the future things that we have in regards to NFTs and all the other exotic assets that we're planning to use on our platform. We've been building for over a year, and about a year and a half-ish now at this point, and we're on track to release that very soon. We're currently being audited for the second time to just ensure an overall safety of the platform. And as soon as we have that finalized, we'll be able to release that. We're very excited for more people to take a look at it on the mainnet version. So one of the big developments that has happened recently for Paribus itself is in regards to the PBX token. We have made that a Cardano native asset. So now that's a CNT that's actively trading on Wing Riders. And that is, really exciting to have that one of the first steps of integration into Cardano itself.
So as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, interoperability has always been a pillar for Cardano. And it's great to see projects in the ecosystem that also value this. It's also been important for IOG recently with the rolling out of the SecP upgrade to Cardano's cryptographic primitives and the sidechain toolkit. How is Paribus thinking about interoperability?
Definitely, I believe that Cardano's interoperability is one of the major aspects that drew us to Cardano itself. IOG's work to do things like creating the toolkits and sidechains are really beneficial to us. As you mentioned, the new primitives will allow us to really integrate more deeply and allow the interoperability to work across all the chains that we're trying to be integrated into. I think there's a lot of people who are connecting to Cardano's ecosystem and blockchain, such as Macamada. Macamada has really been a key part of our path forward to integrate with Cardano. Essentially, our goal with Paribus itself is to help with bringing liquidity and TVL from other ecosystems into Cardano. So as soon as we have the functionality to integrate with Macamada, we'll be able to essentially bring a lot of the value that's within other ecosystems, such as we have a big focus on NFTs. That's our goal is to bring that liquidity from those other chains to Cardano, and we'll be able to eventually settle transactions on the Cardano blockchain natively. And as soon as we have things like our governance and all those systems in place, we'll be able to help support in a more deep manner.
So as I'm sure you know, the Cardano community is full of people who are supportive and active and like to get their hands dirty. So I'm sure that they would like to hear about the MVP testnet of Paribus and generally how they can get involved.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we've been really looking forward to, having more and more people take a look at what we've been building. The thing that is most exciting right now is, we have the MVP testnet that is live currently. So that's something that we have been getting some really great feedback on. We have that plus a full bug bounty program and multiple audits. And this just really ensures that, we have developed a really safe and user-friendly platform, which will allow us to attract more users and to hopefully, continue the ideation, and hopefully that we can, push that forward to make something that's, great for everyone in the space. Another great way to interact with us in general is on social media. We're very active on Telegram, and we have some great discussions there, open to suggestions and support. Also, obviously on Twitter and Discord, and most recently on YouTube. So we're creating short videos which will, educate and inform the community about things that Paribus is doing and kind of how we relate to the general blockchain space.
So Wilson, it has been really great having you on the show and hearing about all the progress that Paribus has made. Do you have any last comments for the audience?
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited and happy to have joined you here today. We have some really great milestones coming up in the roadmap for 2023. One of the big things is the EVM version of our MVP mainnet, and that is set to release on January 31st. So that is, something that as soon as the audits are completed, we'll be able to release. And, one of the big things that we're looking forward to is getting into the toolkits that IOG has created for sidechains. And as soon as we have our development team take a look at that, we'll be able to integrate, and we're really honestly looking forward to a great future together.
Well, thanks again, Wilson, for joining us on the show.
So thanks to Genius Yield and Paribus for joining us on the show today. Of course, we're always looking for new projects to feature and keep the community informed. So if you're building on Cardano, be sure to fill out the form using the link below if you want to appear on a future 360. So let's close off with a bit of a sum up of some of the announcements made by the IOG team in January. Earlier in the show, I mentioned the Essential Cardano Guide, our first attempt to capture the diversity and vibrancy of the Cardano ecosystem. Now, could never hope to be comprehensive, there's just too much going on for that, but we hope it captures many of the key projects you know about and some that you don't. Over 200 builders, creators and SPOs from the ecosystem helped us in pulling the guide together, and you can learn more about the core technology behind Cardano and read about some of the over 1,100 projects building on Cardano and the stake pools maintaining the network. You'll find info on Cardano's social presence and its 1.3 million followers. There's also more on Project Catalyst, which to date has funded over 1,100 proposals and lots more besides. So make sure you check out the link below to download your copy. Now in December, on Ada Lovelace's birthday, we released Lace onto the pre-production environment, available as a Chrome extension. It was the next step in a continuing journey towards mainnet that's seen the community help test the public beta and give us their feedback. At the time of recording, the Lace team is busy teeing up a new pre-production release, fixing bugs and providing new features for the community to check out. The Lace website is where you can get involved or just sign up to be the first to know when Lace comes to the Cardano mainnet. And join the Lace community on Discord and follow Lace's Twitter. You'll find all the links below. So a couple of weeks ago, IOG launched the first version of our Cardano sidechain toolkit, a collection of tools for developer to build sidechains on the Cardano blockchain. We created it with the goal of making Cardano more extensible and to drive greater innovation from both within the Cardano ecosystem and beyond. With the toolkit, developers can experiment with different smart contract languages or consensus protocols without worrying about disrupting the main chain's stability or security. A few different components are included, such as main chain Plutus scripts that make cross-chain transactions secure, a chain follower to keep track of the main chain data, and a sidechain module that interprets that data and makes any necessary changes to the ledger. So very soon, developers will be able to start exploring and experimenting on a new EVM sidechain proof of concept testnet, connecting wallets and transferring test tokens between the different environments, or even deploying Solidity smart contracts and dApps. If you're interested in trying this out, be sure to check out the tutorials on our updated sidechains documentation on the Cardano docs site. There's also going to be special tutorial videos and a developer webinar in February to answer any questions you might have about the proof of concept and the toolkit. So don't forget to follow IOG's social media updates, join the Discord, get into the Telegram to keep up to date with all the developments there. And on the development theme, IOG and MLabs have been working together on a guide and reference implementation for Hydra to hold auctions for digital assets. You'll find a blog over at Essential Cardano, along with a link to download the paper, so make sure you check that out. Last but not least, last week we set a tentative date of February the 14th for the next network upgrade to bring new interoperability to Cardano with new cryptographic primitives in the Plutus smart contract language. We'll be sure to keep you posted on progress, but meanwhile check out the blog. So until next time, thanks for joining. See you soon.